Black history is not something that's merely observed and commemorated, but lived. And it's an immense pleasure to have in studio with us today Baba Abishai Ben Rueben, who is the personification of the contemporary black freedom struggle in lower Westchester County and beyond. It's really hard for me to say just how, along with Brother Jeff Monroe, who is also a carrier of the tradition.
Well, first, okay. First time on the show. I think Jeff was here before, but let me give you a official round of applause. Before we get into that, I wanted to play a little video of Brother Abishai real quick before we get into the interview, and we're going to do that right now.
Drumming, there's an old saying that comes out of Africa. It says, the drum and the heart are one. It regulates your heartbeat and also grounds you to be able to release negative energy and to bring in positive energy. Drumming connects you to your inner being, because that's native people. All native people have some type of drum, because it's one of the first instruments that plays your heartbeat. Doom, 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 doom.
I'm Salim Sullivan, and I'm the president of the Association of Community-Based Artists of Westchester, better known as the Aqua Center for the Arts. We are a community-based organization that has been in existence for 36 years continuously. We have an exciting African dance troupe, a Koshua African dance troupe that has been with us for over 25 years.
Recently, over the past 9 years, it has turned into a very clear healing and empowerment, all right, place to come to on Wednesday night to experience your true self through drumming and dance and culture.
Well, Mount Vernon.
I just wanted to play a small portion of the clip before we went into the interview to familiarize y'all with who this brother was. And I just want to say, you know, it's Black History Month, and you know, most of the time when you see Black history on the radio and you hear about it on these various programs, they tell you about how Harriet Tubman freed the slaves and Martin Luther King had a dream. There's so much more. We've done so much more than that. And we want to celebrate that, and you know, we always want to bring it local and talk about we Black Westchester, so we want to talk about some Black Westchester history, and this brother definitely is that Black history, has seen a lot of Black history, has lived a lot is Black history. Both Damon Jones and Dr. Bob both told me that this brother was a mentor to them when, you know, and coming up, and a lot of stuff that they learned from this brother here. So without further ado, Brother Abishai, one more time, let me give you a round of applause. Wrong. I got like 4 mics. There you go. There you go. I'd like to welcome you to the show, my brother. Pull your mic close to you so everybody can hear you. It moves. You just pull it up. Yes, yes, yes. So
again.
Oh, also, and we have my brother Jeff. We got Brother Abishai in the first half of the show. Jeff's here with us. I mean, he might chime in, and we're gonna be talking with him in the second half of the show. But go ahead.
So many of our audience members may recognize Brother Abishai as a fixture in Mount Vernon community. He is both an educator, a cultural artist, a community organizer, activist who has been a continuous presence in the various chapters of both political struggle and also cultural struggle for the recovery of an African-centered humane tradition that has to be the foundation stone of any attempt to rejuvenate our people and to in our quest for freedom. And so, and I say this, everyone, this is deeply personal to me. Brother Abishai has been a presence in my life since I was a little boy. And by that I mean when I was a little
when he was a lowercase G.
Yeah. Now I'm a big G though. You know that. I still might be lowercase though, but it's all right. I'm an older G. But I do mean since I was a little boy. Amongst his other achievements, Brother Abishai served as the director of CAG, I guess the Community Action.
I was community. I was a community activist in the sense of community worker.
Right.
I was never the
Okay, well, you played such a leadership role, Brother Abishai, that you left your stamp on the programming of CAG.
Yeah, that was Sarah Yishkak now, and I can't pull her name up right now, but she was the director, and Sheila Severson. Sheila Severson and Sarah Yishkak were the directors of the program. I was a community worker, community activist.
Well,
do me if it just pull your mic like straight. It's leaning down a little bit. Just straighten it up a little bit. I want everybody to hear you clearly, and you soft spoken. Go ahead.
Is that better?
Yes, sir. Yes,
All
sir.
right.
Since I was a child, Brother Abishai has always been a tutor and a mentor to me, both through CAG and even as I began to make the difficult transition to adolescence, when I, as part of my story, ran the streets of Mount Vernon. And one of the continuous challenges and that I heard from Abishai was many are called but few are chosen. And it was a constant reminder to me that there was a larger mission that me and other people of our generation have to play if we are to continue to in the tradition of struggle. And so I'm thankful for the opportunity to publicly thank Brother Abishai and to acknowledge the influence that he's played in my life. But to begin our discussion, I have to note that in CAG, we had a very African-centered, Afrocentric kind of curriculum that we would follow that started with the naming of the various groups that we were a part of, according to some well-known African tribes, Shaka, Zulu, Ashanti warriors, amongst others. And that just is an indication of the kind of cultural value system that you have always tried to impart to us as we try to deal with the system that we're in. And maybe to begin, Abishai, I don't know enough about your personal history. I was been particularly interested in the biography of our leaders, and maybe you could begin by just giving us a couple of more details about your earlier experiences and how they shaped who you are and became to be the leader that you are today.
Well, first and foremost, I just want to give all honor and praise to the Creator, the Mother, Father, God of the universe, and to all the ancestors who sacrificed their life that we may be here today. And one of those ancestors is my grandfather. My grandfather raised two wonderful daughters. That's my mother and Aunt Frances, my auntie. Both of them have made their transition to the ancestral plane. But see, Granddaddy was the one who set everything in motion, because the Honorable Louis Griffin went to Africa. So when he came back from Africa, he taught us. He went to Liberia, in the land of the free, so-called enslaved people. That nation was founded by the freed, enslaved people from United Snakes. So the bottom line is that Granddaddy taught my mother, Dorothy, and my auntie, Frances, that pass on to the children that, and before he died, he was around us, and before they took him to D.C., he taught us all. He gathered us around his bed. We were in Mount Vernon, and he spoke these words to us. He said, remember, I taught this to your aunt and to your mother, that you're not a coon, jigaboo, negro, nigger, none of those titles. You're a black man, or you're an African living in exile, all right? None of those other titles fit. And he said, whatever you do, you get an education so you can navigate in this kind of a system, because it is an oppressive system. My grandfather taught us that. He had a 4th grade education, and he was a master chef, and he served in different people's houses. He says, this is what I do. You will call me Lewis Griffin or Mr. Griffin.
Absolutely.
Never by my first name. These rich white folks in Silver Springs, because we were born in my grandfather's house, in my mother and father's bedroom, me and Cynthia, my sister, my oldest sister. She's the firstborn. And then he told them that I will cook and I will serve, but I do not do any domestic cleaning. I don't wash no dishes. And then you pay me. No checks, cash. So that's the legacy that he left with us. So it wasn't going to college, and yes, I did go to college. I went to Purchase University, got a BA in political science and minor in education. But the first education of black history, of knowing who our people are, came from my grandfather. That was his lifelong desire, was to go back to Akubalan, to Africa, to find out about our heritage.
I just wanted to, I saw you recently, I guess it was like a couple of weeks ago, and one of the things that we were talking about, you know, I thought it was important to honor our elders. I was saying, you know, I went to church with Napoleon Holmes, and I got to know him really get to know him the last 2 years of his life before he transitioned.
Right.
But I did not take advantage of the wealth of knowledge that he had before he passed. So when he passed, he took that with him, and we need to pass it on, but we need to listen and sit at the feet of our elders and get that wealth of knowledge, so we don't, when we get of age and we are in the struggle, we're not starting all over again. And I mean, that is whether it's in the community, where even when I was in the music business, we had a music conference, and they had the brother from Cameo, and who had been in it for a lot of years, and the brother Daddy-O from Sonic, and then somebody again like just came out, and one thing we realized, the new artists was still going through the stuff the artists of the 60s and 70s was going through. Like, you understand what I'm saying? Like,
absolutely.
We have not learned from our elders and on any level, so we're repeating the same and you know, now that's one, seeing the different generations, that was very evident of, you know. So I was like, it was very important to have this kind of a conversation, and you know, like, we was in the laundromat that day, and I was like, I took that time, I took the opportunity to have a discussion with you,
right.
to pick your brain a little bit, you know what I mean? And that's what we need to do with our elders, and we also need to pass it down.
Right.
And the other thing I had said to you, and then I'll get to you, Bob, and let you take over, Bob. There were a lot of people, older people, my age now, and young, that got at me when I was a teenager.
Right.
A lot of my peers are dead, have done double-digit
right.
prison time. and I'm out now. I have felonies. The reason I'm not dead, one of the main reasons I'm not dead or in jail, outside of having my father in my life and uncles in my life, other people in the community saw something in me, and got at me. And I say that to say that we say the youth is out of control. So to my generation now, if we feel the youth is out of control, is it the youth failing us, or are we failing the youth?
Well, you got it.
There you go.
You know automatically, AJ, that I tell this to the elders, those who are 50 and over. I say, we've abdicated the throne. And you're pointing the fingers. We're the only people right now, and we're hoping to stop this, that condemn our own children. We speak about our children like they're nothing, publicly. And then we turn them over to the enemy schools, and then we ask them to come out having respect for us. Well, you better respect me. I'm your elder. Yeah, yes, they're supposed to respect you. But what do we lay as a foundation, like you just said, AJ, to have them respect us? If I'm your elder, then I must sit like an elder. I must behave like an elder. So, I mean, right sitting here is the three of y'all, all right? I have so much honor and respect for the three of y'all, and I know what Dr. Bob, as you'll give him the title, as the Dr. Bob and Bob are here, all right? Because I made sure I went to them. I didn't wait for them to come to me.
Right.
I stayed on their case.
And my partner Damon says the same thing. You were very influential.
Yeah, I stayed on the brothers and cases that the God let me see who they are. I passed the baton years ago to both of them. That's why I enjoy being cooled out. Not that I'm not active, but y'all know me. I walk the streets every day.
Absolutely.
Peace and love.
I see you pass the house every day.
Yeah, every day. All right? Peace and love. Going to the drumming circles, whatever. Mm-hmm. But it's not my time now. And you recognize that it's the time for y'all to get those ones that y'all see that can run now, that have an insight into this culture, and get them. Spend the time with them. I don't care if it's nothing but 10 minutes out of the week, but call them up. Do the bonding. That's the ritual that I always told Jeff and the other brothers and sisters at the African Healing Circle. If people don't know you and you've been in the community for umpteen years and they don't recognize you, it's because you're not bonded.
Right.
You have to have a bonding ritual. Malcolm X, the Black Panthers. Why do you think the Black Panthers were so powerful? They was loved by the community, and the people knew them personally.
Right. Right.
So if they saw,
and they was in them streets.
If they saw Jeruba, at a time in the street, or they saw the brother who walked from Florida to come to New York, hitchhike, and he was the one that was killed by the feds. Was that Michael Rackley? What was his name? The one that was killed, and they blamed some of the Panthers for killing him. I forgot his name.
Yeah, I forgot the name too. I
you know what I'm saying? But he's the one that handed out papers every time he got his papers. He got 100 papers. He was finished within 3 days. He asked for more papers. Rackley or something, that was his name, something like that. Anyway, Alex, whatever. And I was there at the headquarters every Saturday, PE classes, and witnessing those who were agents that were with Malcolm when he was assassinated. All right. This guy was up in the echelon of the leadership, so-called. Then he ended up being one of Malcolm's bodyguards, and after Malcolm was assassinated, he disappeared. Then he resurfaces again. I'm just saying.
Yeah, you had the name right, Alex Rackley.
There you go.
Born June 2nd, 1949, died May 20th, 1969, was a member of the New York chapter of the Black Panther Party in the late 60s. In May 19 was suspected by other Panthers of being a police informant or something. Blah blah blah. There's a bunch of other stuff. I don't know. Just Wikipedia is not always reliable, so I don't want to read a lot of Wikipedia.
Well, you got enough, brother.
Yeah.
Right.
Sound like
Right.
you got what we needed.
And I'm only using that to say that these brothers, y'all are the ones that have got to have a voice in our community ongoing, because the media is 24/7 in their psychic.
Absolutely.
And our children are so, what you call, tech savvy, and they're not talking to each other. They're using a mechanical mechanism to
Right.
communicate.
Right.
So we need to make sure that grassroots we're on the ground and we're bonded in the community, so that the community knows you. Not just when you want to have a rally, not just when you want to have an outcry about some injustice, but that the people see you and know. You know, many times people have said to me, and I'm not blowing my trumpet, my boast is in the Creator. Abishai, you like the shadow mayor. You know, and I just laugh. Why don't you run for the school board? I said, well, my ex-wife did that. She had 18 years. That's her calling.
Mm-hmm.
I am a warrior for God. That's what Abishai means. Abishai means the fire of God. So I was King David in the scriptures, King David's general. So that's what I do. I don't go outside of what I know I can do.
Right.
All right. So any questions or whatever you have of me, because I wanted to bring a value system that came out of eternity, and that's Ma'at and Guzu Saba. Those two things, those 14 principles, can bring our community right back in order. That's what I came to bring.
So, Brother Abishai, I know from our long discussions, because, you know, we've spent much time together at your house where you tutored me and we just talked and you've exchanged, shared your wisdom with me. And I know from a little boy that you have a very deeply spiritually grounded political, cultural vision for us. And maybe for our audience members, I wanted to know, we actually pulled up the principles of the Nguvu Saba and also of Ma'at, and I wanted to know maybe if you could just, for those who may not be familiar, a quick overview.
Yeah, a quick overview is that Ma'at is, and Baba will help me with this, Ma'at is the 7 virtues, universal virtues of creation, Ma'at. And that is truth, justice, righteousness, order, balance, harmony, and reciprocity. All right, those are the 7 virtues that make up creation, that give a foundation where you can live by. It's not because it came out of Kemet, it's the ancient order. And the goddess Ma'at, you see her in the ceiling and the temples in Kemet. All right, and me and Queen Mother Ada bin Rueben, we went to Kemet, spent 14 days in Kemet, and so you're able to see these divine beings on the walls, and they're women. They're black. It's not any white folks. This ain't Cleopatra when they show her with the long pointed nose and all that stuff. These are all African people, which we call goddesses and gods. And that teaching is what has followed us all the way down now to where if we live a Ma'atic life, then when you get ready to make your transition, you go before judgment, so-called day. Your heart is weighed on the scale with a feather. And if your heart, your deeds do not balance out, then that's what you call going into hell, being consumed. All right? So that's why it's so important that at the African Healing Circle, where we meet at Akbar every Wednesday starting March, I think the next session starts March the 6th or the first Wednesday in March, we give out Ma'at and Nguzu Sabo on one piece of paper. We let everybody know that's our guiding principles. And if we study them and internalize them, all right, have workshops with them, we're going to have some of that happening at Akbar, so that the people can feel free. This is not religion. This is African spirituality. There's a difference in African spirituality. I don't care what way you practice. You Muslim, Hebrew, Christian, Zoroaster, whatever, Hindu, whatever you want to practice, whatever name you give to deity. Just know that those 14 principles are liberating principles. It's not just culture and the Pan-Africanists don't embrace it. Sure they do. They just do not accept a European, all right, historical perspective on Africa and on us in America. So I wanted to share that, and I would rather take questions and comments from the brothers here, from y'all, and we can go from there.
One of the things, and you touched upon the Panthers, and Bob always talks about, a lot of people don't know the role the city of Mount Vernon played in the civil rights struggle and, and the history of that, and anything you can speak about,
Well, when the Panther Party was really active and we were going down there on Saturday, because I was in New Rochelle living then, and what we would do, we called the office one day, and we had the Black Radicals Onward in New Rochelle, and we would put on that list that the permanent list of being subversive. I forgot the name of it. I don't know. It wasn't COINTELPRO, that one. It was another list that was out before that came out. We were put on that list of Black Radicals Onward, and we had a confrontation in New Rochelle at Race's restaurant. Used to be on North Avenue and Main Street. And so 12 of us were arrested. Only 2 of us were indicted. But anyway, and me and another brother, he's crossed over now, we were indicted, and then because it was fictitious and it was trumped up charges, that I got a skid bid. I did 30 days in Valhalla for a federal offense, so-called. Hit in the head, police officer hit me in my head. I got 4 stitches, and he was notorious racist. So that history. Then we contacted the Panther Party after that, and they sent up 3 of their chief lieutenants, and they started teaching us out of the Remington Boys Club, because we were, real close with the director there. On Saturdays, we had a freedom school. And so the children that couldn't learn that well during the school week, they came Saturday. Many children their math scores went up, the English, everything, because we had school from 9 o'clock in the morning until 12 noon. So we had a freedom school. So all those things came out of that, we brought the Panthers up, and then they had us come down, and we became Panthers in training. So we had access to all what was going on during that time period with the 21 and all that, how that was all set up by the government.
So, Brother Abishai, I don't need to tell you your influence is far-reaching, and indeed, several of our viewers tonight were actually also fellow members of CAG, and I know from their comportment today that you've had a lasting influence on them. Brother Joshua Askew is indeed one of them, who childhood friend, as is Brother Mike Holt. So I wanted you to perhaps share with us your historical perspective, as someone who was involved in the movement at its height here in Westchester County, the nature of the goals and program that you all were seeking to implement at that time, and how you think conditions have changed. What are your thoughts on some of the, in addition to our spiritual rejuvenation and education, what are some other kind of goals we need to embrace today, and maybe how things have changed?
Well, quickly, every African American community should have a what we call the East. You remember the East? I mean, the East was an institution that the brothers and sisters, the teachers from Ocean Hill, Brownsville, went to the Board of Education and said, we shut this mother down because y'all not educating our children, and there's no proper representation, and nor is the money coming to our schools, all right? And the schools are not adequate. So we're saying that y'all either get this together or we're going to shut the Board of Education down. They didn't get it together, and they came up there and they shut that session down.
Right.
And the police was called. It was a whole big thing. But then they said, we're going to set up our own African-centered educational institutions to educate our children. Independent school. And that's how the East was formed. It was formed from struggle. And to this day, that blueprint, I have the book at my house, A View from the East, is revisited, right? Mm-hmm. If we just take that book alone, we can build independent institutions with the Marcus Garvey concept. I mean, this is so beautiful that Jeff is here, because that's what is missing. We keep saying we don't have no money. Well, we're one of the richest people on the planet. We just don't spend our money with each other. We don't invest in each other.
Absolutely.
So that's one of the major things. You got to have your own institution, because all we have is some frats, we got some Masons halls, and we got 400 churches in Mount Vernon. If each of them are saying that they are pushing Jesus, then Mount Vernon should be purified. Shouldn't be no violence.
Holy ground, right?
Holy ground. There should be no contention. Each of them, 400 churches teaching about Yeshua, the African Christ. And here we got all these conditions that have not been eradicated. That equation doesn't balance off, y'all. Y'all know that. I'm not beating up on Christianity or Hebrewism or whatever. Religion is yours. That's your religion. Malcolm said, put that behind you. Come out as a united front.
Right.
And that's why we have at the African Healing Circle all nationalities. Anybody can come. Even white folks can come. Anybody, Chinese, anybody. Because it's about healing. We have to be at the next level now. It ain't just about say it loud, I'm black and proud. That's not enough. Where's our institutions that articulate that? Every nationality got something in our community. Portuguese club, whatever you want to say. The Italians just left out of here about 15 years ago. They closed down their little joint. But everybody got something where they could have 24 hours access to. Where's ours? Where's our black house? Where's our African house?
Any words of advice to people coming up, or that, and suggested books that you think that the youth and the young at heart need to be reading right now?
I didn't catch this young brother's discourse. He was magnificent. He must be about maybe 12, but he gave a discourse. Y'all can probably pull it up. I didn't get his name. He was speaking about the word nigger. That needs to be played to all the school systems, all of the churches, every black institution. This young brother brought this thing, you hear me, he brought it from Africa right on up to today, what we need to be doing. You know, like the young brothers tell me, Abishai, you're an OG. You still kicking it. Yeah, because I see y'all have been sidetracked. Y'all think that the music and, you know, what y'all are saying is enough. I said it's not enough, because where's your institution to make sure that it's carried on? Every ethnic group has their own institution where you can go in there and rent their place, but you can't attend their meetings. And you're not going to determine this self-determination for them. Am I right?
Absolutely.
Yeah,
Absolutely.
you can't join. And I'm not talking about being exclusive.
Mm-hmm.
We're the only ones that kick up about, you know, well, why do y'all still throw your fist up in there? I do that every day. If I see a brother or sister, I say, peace, brothers.
Yes,
Peace.
you do.
You see me.
Every day
I
when
throw
I
my
see you.
fist up.
Yeah.
I picked that back up the last 5 years, wherever I go. If I see anybody in any town.
Mm-hmm.
Because you got to have something that we identify with. It just can't be, well, you're revolutionary, but what? The Cubans had a certain revolution, and then they exported it. Wherever you need us, we'll come. It's not. That's why we had the big polemic with Maulana Karanga and the Panthers about the Red Book. That's a Chinese condition. And so what happened, once we caught that as a Panther Party, we picked up Ghanaian, the Black Book. You can't even find that now. I need y'all to get the Black Book.
Okay, I must
You gotta get the
confess,
Black Book.
I don't have that on my shelf.
Huh?
Cal Taylor's?
No, the Black Book from Kwame Nkrumah. The revolution in Ghana. It's banned. I'm telling y'all, this is so deep. Kwame Nkrumah's Black Book. You can get certain documentation out of the library. Maybe y'all can Google it in. But it's not, the United States government banned that. It's probably down in D.C. in, what do they call it, the Library of Congress? They have a copy of everything
They
in
must,
the world.
yeah.
But you need to have that. And I misplaced mine. You got to have a Black Book. Because it talks about African-centered revolution, what they did in Ghana. With the proper conditions were ripened for revolution. And they had a successful revolution.
The emphasis that you give on the need to create institutions kind of echoes with something that Harold Cruz once said about what a revolution is. And a revolution is not just the destruction of the existing, but it's the creation of the new.
Right.
And, you know, I think really one of the keys that we continue to miss is the imperative to build these institutions, independent institutions, which has been a continuous theme
Right.
of black leadership, so far as I'm certainly here in America, you know, which is my focal point at least.
All the master scholars now, African-centered scholars now, they have the house that they burned the mortgage on, where Susan Taylor and Alefi Asante, all of them got together and pooled their money. It's a think tank, but it's not an institution where you have access to it like the East was. Out of the East came co-ops, you know, we clothes stores. Then the festival that we all go to every year down in Brooklyn came from the first year that the East was successful. They had a street fair in front of the building. They took the street over and closed it down.
The
That's
West
what you
Indian Day
see.
Parade?
Huh?
Is
No.
it? No.
No,
That's
the
something-
festival from 4th of July, from the what is that, the 1st to the 4th? No, down in Brooklyn in the African Street Festival.
Boys and Girls High School. Before Boys and Girls High School.
It was at Boys and Girls High School, yeah. But before that, it was in front of the building itself.
Real quick. So a viewer, Kwame Madden, said Harold Cruz, that name needs to be raised more.
There you go.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
While Abishai and I were driving over together, and we were reflecting on the nature of history, we agreed that history is not something that we are to study academically and passively. It's not a consumer item. We are looking to history for practical lessons that we can apply today in order to push our struggle forward. And Cruz is one of the many thinkers who place an emphasis on the need for the creation of independent institutions. And that is a major challenge that confronts us still today. I know almost every time when Brother Jeff and I have a discussion, he insists on the importance of finding a way to create precisely an African-centered educational institution that is going to be more reverent of our historical accomplishments and traditions.
I need to, before I get ready to exit, I really need to, and I explained this to AJ in the laundromat, that this is so serious now. Leadership leads to rulership. It's a difference. The only way you come into rulership is that you have to know from the heart and from our soul as Africans, we must project that kind of leadership where we love each other. Mr. Farrakhan always says that. We getting beat up because we stopped loving each other and we started using our ego and our intellect, thinking that that was the highest form of power. The highest form of power is love. And unless we love each other, then all these fractions of groups and stuff, they're bickering over ego-driven information. Because once you love each other, we just melt into the oneness. As long as it's ego-driven, it'll be this fractionalism.
We also first must love ourselves.
Right. That's the first.
Because
right.
you can't love nobody else. Like,
right.
We have a lot of self-hate in the
exactly.
Black community. So
that's what it is. Yeah. And I don't mean this, like turn the other cheek love.
No.
I'm not talking about that.
Right.
Talking about what we were founded on as an African people, the ancients. We are the gods of the earth, the goddesses, just having a human experience. And a lot of us don't want to wrap ourselves around that because we think that that's spookism. I'm talking about what is in our vessel. We are the ancient people, and the power we have is beyond overstanding. But it will not come out. It will not build those institutions that we built a long time ago until we go back to, like you said, Baba, loving our God self, loving ourself within. Because there's outer love, there's also inner love. So I thank you so much.
Any last words? That's what I wanted to say.
Well, the last words is that I thank y'all because the torch has been passed. I'm telling you. Well, and, there's a lot of need for this type of synthesizing, bringing it together. Because is there a physical revolution? Yes, but there's also an inner revolution that must take place, like you said, AJ, in the laundromat.
Absolutely, absolutely. We want to thank you for coming. We want you to know that it's an open door policy, as I told you before. I mean, you have a lot that a lot of people need to hear. And anytime you need to address something or you just have something you want to share, please reach out to me or Dr. Bob, and we got to have you on here. We pick your brain, and I mean, this, I enjoy it.
And for y'all, I like to come back another time period, do some Q&A.
Yeah, absolutely.
With the public. Because that's imperative. I don't want anybody thinking that this is dogmatic. This ain't dogmatic.
Right.
This is a sharing.
Absolutely.
All right. This is a sharing.
And we do have a caller on the line. Caller, this is the People Before Politics radio show. Please state your name and purpose for calling.
Good evening. This is Delia Farquharson.
Hey, Councilwoman Farquharson, how are you?
Queen Mother.
I am very well. I'm very well. So I've been listening to Baba, and I am fortunate to be a student of Baba. So I just wanted to acknowledge, the relevance of what he's saying. and of course to contribute in any way that I can to this discussion. Baba just talked about that the revolution is not just a physical revolution, but it needs to be a mental and a psychological revolution that is necessary for us to have or experience change as a people and as a community.
Right. I just want to interrupt you real quick, Councilwoman, and say we bid adieu to Brother Abishai. We thank him for coming. We know he has to be somewhere else, and I just wanted to, like I said, open door, man. Anytime you're around and you want to come through, please.
Oh, I appreciate it. Thank you, Baba. And Queen Mother.
Yes, Baba.
You know you got to give me a call.
I will, Baba.
All right. Love you dearly.
I love you more.